While hosting a family dinner, my father-in-law took my plate and said, "You eat after the men." I was shocked and reached for it, but my husband just shook his head. "It's tradition," he said quietly. The next day, I invited them to another dinner, and when they showed up, they learned exactly how I felt. My husband, Richard, and I had been married for 3 years. Our marriage wasn't bad, but I started noticing small things that bothered me. Richard wasn't abusive or mean, but around his family, he acted differently. His father, Paul, was old-fashioned, thinking men should be in charge. His mother, Carol, was quiet and never argued with him. His brother, Mark, was loud and thought women should stay in their place. Mark's wife, Anna, was sweet but always seemed tense, like she was waiting to be told to be quiet. I didn't grow up like that. My parents taught me that respect goes both ways, that marriage is a partnership, and that women aren't just there to serve men. I figured as long as Richard wasn't like his family, it wouldn't matter. But I was wrong. It was a normal Saturday, no holiday or special event, just a simple dinner at our house. I spent the whole day cooking, not because I had to, but because I liked it. I enjoyed making our home feel welcoming, and honestly, I wanted to impress them. I made roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, collard greens, and cornbread. Everything. I plated it all nicely, set the table, and lit a few candles. I was proud of how it looked. When everyone arrived, Paul made a comment about how Richard had lucked out with me, which was his way of saying, "Good job finding a wife who cooks and cleans." I smiled, used to it by now. We sat down, and I brought the plates to the table. I set mine down last, right in front of my seat, and was about to sit when Paul reached across and took my plate. He handed it to Mark, saying, "You eat after the men." I froze. I thought it had to be a joke, but when I looked around, Mark was already eating. Carol stared at her plate. Anna looked uncomfortable but kept quiet. And Richard? He just gave me a look, like he was saying, "Don't make a scene." Then he quietly said, "It's tradition." Something inside me snapped. I wasn't raised to be treated like an afterthought. I wasn't going to sit there and wait for permission to eat like a servant. But I knew if I reacted right then, they'd just say I was overreacting. So I stayed quiet. I didn't touch my food or get another plate. I just sat there, watching them eat. Richard laughed at something Mark said. Paul took seconds. Carol ate silently, as always. I let my anger build and started planning. The next morning, I sent out a text. "Dinner at our place again next Sunday, my treat." Richard was surprised. "Another dinner? You were pretty quiet last night." I smiled. "I just want to make sure your family knows how much I appreciate them." The following Sunday, I went all out. Prime rib, garlic butter shrimp, scalloped potatoes, homemade bread, roasted asparagus. The best meal I could make. When they arrived, the house smelled amazing. The table was set beautifully, and the food was hot. The men sat down first, just like last time. They picked up their forks, and that's when I made my move. I stood up, took their plates one by one, and handed them to the women, Carol, Anna, and me. "You eat after the women," I said calmly, just like Paul had. The room went silent. Paul's jaw tightened. Mark scoffed. Richard blinked and asked, "Babe, what are you doing?" I took a bite of my food and smiled. "It's tradition." Paul stood up. "We don't do things like this." I chewed slowly, smiled again. "Exactly." Mark looked angry. "This is stupid." Oh, I raised an eyebrow. It wasn't stupid last week. Anna, sweet Anna, let out the smallest laugh, which she quickly covered with a cough. But I noticed it, and for the first time she really looked at her husband. Carol, too, for the first time picked up her fork before Paul. She still looked nervous, but she did it. As for me, I took my time eating. The men sat there, uncomfortable and hungry. I wasn't done yet. When I finished, I leaned back, wiped my mouth, and said, "Since the women cooked, the men can do the dishes." The look on Paul's face was priceless. Mark thought I was joking, but when I didn't start clearing plates, he realized I wasn't. And Richard? He hesitated, then sighed, stood up, and started collecting plates. Just like that, the balance of power shifted. Later that night, after everyone left, Richard and I sat in the kitchen, the sink full of dishes. He was quiet, staring at the table. I leaned against the counter, waiting. Finally, he spoke. "What was that about?" I raised an eyebrow. "Dinner." He let out a short, humorless laugh. "You humiliated my dad." I tilted my head. "Did I?" Or did I just show him what it's like to be on the other side? Richard set his drink down a bit too hard. You made everyone uncomfortable. I shrugged. Good. His jaw tightened. I don't get why you had to make such a big deal out of it. That's when I lost it. I slammed my hand on the counter. Oh, so it was fine when your dad did that to me, but when I do the same thing, it's a problem. That's just how he is. No, I interrupted. That's how you let him be. That's how your mom lets him be. That's how your brother treats Anna. And I'm sure that's how he's raising his sons too. Richard flinched. I softened my voice but stayed firm. I'm not some submissive housewife, Richard. I'm your wife, your partner. And if you think I'm going to sit here and wait my turn like I'm less than you, you're wrong. He exhaled through his nose, rubbing his temples. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. No, I'm finally making it as big as it needs to be. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing. It was Anna. Anna, are you awake? Me? Yeah, what's up? Can we talk? I looked over at Richard, still asleep, then slipped out of bed and went downstairs. I called her, and she answered right away. She hesitated. I wanted to thank you. I frowned. For what? For standing up to them, she said, her voice soft. For showing me I'm not crazy for thinking this isn't right. I sat down at the kitchen table. Anna, how bad is it? She took a shaky breath. I don't know. Mark's never hit me, but he talks to me like I'm a child. He tells me what to wear, what to cook, who I can see. If I try to stand up for myself, he says I'm overreacting and that I need to calm down. And his dad always backs him up. If I say something bothers me, Mark just says I'm being dramatic. My hands clenched into fists. And last night, she continued, her voice even softer. When you flipped the script, I saw Mark's face. He was mad, but not because it was unfair. It was because, for once, he wasn't in control. I swallowed. Anna, what do you want to do? There was silence. Then, barely above a whisper, I don't know. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. You don't have to decide anything now, I said. But you deserve better. Just remember that. Okay. Okay. I could hear the crack in her voice, and I knew something had shifted for her too. I didn't expect him to call me, but 2 days later, my phone rang while I was at work. It was Paul. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. Hello. Silence. Then a slow breath. You think you're clever, don't you? I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. Paul, if this is about the dinner, this is about my son. I frowned. Excuse me. You embarrassed him in front of his family. You put ideas in his wife's head. You've been poisoning him against us since the day you married him. I almost laughed. Poisoning him? By wanting to be treated like a person. Don't act dumb, Paul. I know your type. Women like you don't want equality. You want control. You want to make my son weak. I raised him better than that. I took a deep breath and calmly said, Well, Paul, if you think your son is weak, maybe you should ask yourself who raised him that way. There was silence, then a low chuckle. You think you've won something here, he said. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. A woman who fights her husband's family doesn't stay married for long. And then he hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, my heart pounding, not out of fear, but because I was furious. Paul had seriously underestimated me. He thought I was just some rebellious woman who needed to be put in her place. I scoffed. Like what? By smiling and nodding while he treats me like an unpaid maid? You don't get it, he snapped, his voice sharp. That's just how things work in my family. I looked at him, a sick feeling growing inside me. Is it? I asked coldly, because I don't remember agreeing to be part of a family where I'm treated like a second-class citizen. Richard groaned, rubbing his temples. God, you always do this. You always turn everything into a fight. I laughed, actually laughed. I turned things into a fight. I turned off the lamp and laid down, facing away from him. And for the first time since we married, I wondered if I had misjudged the man next to me. 2 days later, Anna called again. This time she wasn't crying. She was furious. I can't do it anymore, she whispered. I can't keep living like this. I sat up. Anna, what happened? He found the pamphlets, she said, her voice shaking. What pamphlets? She exhaled. I went to see a lawyer just to ask questions, just to see what my options were. But Mark must have gone through my purse. He found them last night. I felt sick. What did he do? He freaked out, she said. Started yelling about how I was humiliating him, how I was trying to ruin our family. He grabbed my phone and told me I wasn't leaving him ever. My stomach dropped. Did he hurt you? Silence. Then in the softest voice, he said, not yet. That was all I needed to hear. Anna, listen to me. You need to leave. I know, she whispered, but I don't know where to go. You come here, I said, without hesitation. Pack a bag, take your car, and get out before he comes home. She hesitated. But I don't care, I cut her off. You are not staying in that house one more night. She took a shaky breath. Okay. I hung up and immediately started preparing. I pulled out blankets, set up the guest room, and made sure everything would be ready for her. But just as I was about to call her back, Richard came in. Hey, he said, dropping his keys on the counter. Who was that? I hesitated. I never lied to him before, but this wasn't his business. Just Anna, I said, keeping my tone casual. Richard narrowed his eyes. What's going on with her? I shrugged. Just girl talk. He stared at me for a moment, then nodded, but I could feel something shift between us. I wasn't sure we could come back from it. Anna arrived 3 hours later. She was shaking as she pulled her suitcase inside, her eyes red from crying. I pulled her into a hug. You're safe now, I whispered. She nodded against me. I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll figure it out, I promised. I helped her settle in. She didn't eat much, just picked at her food, staring blankly. But just as we were about to go to bed, her phone rang. She looked at the screen, then froze. Mark, I snatched the phone from her hand and silenced it. A second later, Richard's phone rang from the bedroom. We froze. Then we heard voices outside. Anna turned pale. No. I peeked through the blinds. Mark was standing in our driveway, and Paul was with him. Ice ran through my veins. They knew, and they weren't leaving without a fight. Mark and Paul stood there, backlit by the porch light. Anna was shaking, clutching her shirt like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Her phone buzzed again. Another call from Mark, then a text. Mark, come out now. I took a deep breath and turned to her. You don't have to do this. You don't owe them anything. She swallowed hard. If I don't go out there, he'll just keep coming. That's when Richard stepped into the room, still holding his ringing phone. He looked at Anna, then at me, his face twisted with realization. You knew, he said, his voice low. I didn't answer. He scoffed. You went behind my back. You didn't even tell me. I clenched my jaw. Because I knew you tried to stop me. Richard's nostrils flared. Mark is my brother. Don't you think I should have had a say in this? Your brother is scaring his wife so badly that she had to run in the middle of the night. I snapped. Do you really think I care about how it makes you feel? He didn't answer. Another knock came, harder this time. Anna. Mark's voice was calm, eerily calm. Come outside, let's talk. Anna shrank back, shaking her head. Then came Paul's voice. You're embarrassing yourself, girl, and embarrassing our family. You don't just walk out of a marriage. A new wave of rage swept through me. I turned to Richard. Are you going to let them do this here, in our house? Richard looked torn. Then, without saying a word, he went to the door. I stiffened. Richard, I said. He opened it. Mark and Paul stepped inside like they owned the place. Anna flinched as Mark walked toward her. You're being crazy, he said, his voice almost soft. Come home. Let's talk like adults. But I saw his fingers twitching at his sides, his eyes darting to Paul for approval. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to win. Anna shook her head. No. Mark's face hardened. He was getting angry. No, she repeated, her voice wavering but firm. I'm not coming back with you. Mark exhaled, trying to calm himself down, then turned to Richard. Tell her she's being ridiculous. Richard said nothing. Paul stepped in, glaring at me. You did this. I crossed my arms. Damn right, I did. His eyes darkened. You're ruining this family. I let out a cold laugh. No, Paul. I'm just showing everyone what's already broken. He stepped closer, his presence intimidating. But I didn't flinch. You have no idea what you've started, he said, his voice low. And that's when I snapped. I looked him dead in the eye. I started nothing. You did. The day you taught your sons that their wives were beneath them. The day you told your daughter-in-law she couldn't leave. The day you raised your son to confuse control with love. Paul's jaw tightened, his fists balled. Then Anna spoke. I'm filing for divorce. The words hit like a bomb. Mark turned to her, shocked. You don't mean that. Her lips trembled, but she spoke with strength. I do. Paul stepped forward, voice dangerously low. No woman in this family gets divorced. Anna lifted her chin. Then I guess I'm not part of this family anymore. Just like that, the power shifted. Paul couldn't believe it. His control was slipping. Mark looked like he'd been hit. Richard seemed to realize for the first time that maybe his father wasn't the man he thought he was. Then Paul did something no one expected. He turned to Richard. Get in the car. Richard blinked. What? Paul's face was red with fury. I won't let this woman poison you. We're leaving. My stomach dropped. Paul wasn't just trying to control Anna, he was trying to take Richard with him. And Richard hesitated. For one terrifying moment, I thought he might go. I saw it in his eyes, the years of conditioning, the pull to be a good son. But then, I'm not leaving. Paul froze. Mark looked as shocked as I felt. Richard squared his shoulders. You heard me, Dad. I'm not going. Paul's eyes burned with anger. Don't be stupid, boy. You walk away from us and you're done. No coming back. Richard took a slow breath, then looked at me. I'm staying with my wife. Paul stormed out. Mark followed, too stunned to say anything. He shot Anna one last angry look before the door slammed shut behind them, leaving only silence. Anna was crying, but this time, I knew it wasn't out of fear. I turned to Richard. Are you okay? I asked. He took a deep breath. I don't know. I understood he'd lost something tonight. A father, a brother. But maybe, just maybe, he gained something too. Anna filed for divorce. She moved into her own place, found a job, started therapy, and for the first time in years, she smiled without fear. Carol, unexpectedly, left Paul. One night, she packed a bag and disappeared. She reached out months later from a small apartment in another town. She was starting over. And Richard, he struggled. There were nights when he almost called his dad, when the weight of everything nearly crushed him. But he chose me. He chose us. Months later, one night, he sat beside me and whispered, I see it now. I didn't need to ask what he meant. I already knew. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just my victory. It was ours. And we were finally free.